Hi everybody. Welcome back to Jenkins Boatworks. I am Chuck Jenkins. Today we're going to have the third episode in the Chesapeake 18 kayak build. We bought the kit from Chesapeake Lightcraft and it's really going together quite well, quickly, and we're really starting to see some progress. This boat we are building specifically for the purpose of running in the MR 340. That is a river race from Kansas City to St. Charles, Missouri, 340 miles. And the fellow that's going to be using it in the race is named Rusty, and he's a fellow that I work with. And so anyway, we're pretty happy with the way this whole thing's going. Rusty was up here at the shop last Saturday and helped with some of the epoxy filleting work, and that is what this episode is about. We're going to get up close and personal on using the copper wire to stitch the panels together, and then we mix and use the epoxy and the thickener to actually glue the whole thing together. So pretty exciting, because by the time we're done with this, we really have something that, you know, gives us a very good idea what the shape of this boat looks like, and the lines are really nice on it. So anyway, we're glad you're here. If you're new to the channel, please consider subscribing. And if you're coming back, we're glad you're here. Let's jump in and see how we stitch and glue. All right, so we're getting up close and personal on how to stitch these plywood pieces together. I'm using this copper wire. This is 20 gauge. The plan calls for 18 gauge, and I did use 18 gauge up here until I ran out, and then this is what I had. This is a little bit thinner, and quite honestly, I think it's just a little bit easier to use. I'm cutting off pieces that are 3.5, 4 inches long, something like that. And then I've got my holes drilled in here, and I'm about 3/8 down on each side and about 4 inches apart. The trick to this, though, is to get this threaded through here and out this side and twisted like this. I don't want these twists on the inside because that's where the epoxy fillet will go. So it'll be way easier for me to just cut these off on the outside and not have to worry about this junk sticking up through the epoxy when I put the fillet in. But the problem with that is that it's difficult. You can get in here okay, but then coming through here, you're kind of doing it blind, stitching blind. So I usually take it down about halfway and bend it around in there just a little bit, and then feel my way in there to try to get it to come through that hole here. And as you can see, I'm struggling. Okay, so one little trick I've learned is take another piece of your wire and stick it through this hole this way, and then you can kind of feel where it is and maybe follow that wire in there. The other thing is I'm better at it right-handed than I am left-handed. Oh, it was in there. It was in there. The other thing that can happen to you is then you get all mangled. At least with this lighter gauge, I can kind of straighten it out a little bit better. One thing I tried to do at one point is to make a hook. So just make a nice big hook in it, like that. So then maybe you could just come in here like that and curve your way right into it. And sometimes that works. The thing that's crazy about this is they've been going right in there until I turn the camera on. There we are. I also highly recommend little tiny needle nose pliers like this. You can grab on there, get a hold of that, pull it through. I'm right-handed and I turn right when I tighten. So I'm going to do it first by hand, pull this seam pretty close together and twist that by hand like that, and then take the pliers and try to keep these panels where I want them and tighten that. Kind of pull it out just a little bit, make sure it's tight on the inside, and then start twisting it. Now the only other thing you got to do is you got to be cool. If you twist too hard and too long, you'll snap it off of there, especially with this lighter gauge wire. I'm going to go one more, and that's it. And then we'll come do the next one. Well, that one was easy. I can see through the crack on that one. So I'm doing 4 stitches on one side of the chine, 4 stitches on the other. We are getting close. We're maybe 2.5 to 3 feet from the stern. It's really starting to come together nice. I don't think it's spread quite as far apart as it's supposed to be, but the bulkheads will fix all of that. So anyway, boy, it's starting to look like a boat. So we got it wired up. We got the bulkheads wired in, and we've started filleting. So we got mixed thickened epoxy. We colored it just a little bit with cedar sawdust, and the thought was to try to get somewhat close to the color of the mahogany. It's a Okumi plywood. So Rusty's here helping with this. We got a lot of epoxy to mix today. We already did our winding on this and got the boat to where we know that it's level so that the ends aren't twisted. And that, quite honestly, is what these clamps are doing on the sawhorses and these little pieces of wood on the side that are clamped to the rails. We got it clamped down so it's nice and level. We did put some packing tape in along the edges of where we're putting the fillet. So once we get a whole bunch in there, then let it set for a little bit, we'll pull that packing tape out. It should give us a nice clean line. More in a little bit. We have made huge strides with this Chesapeake 18. As you can see, the bulkheads are in. We spent most of this last weekend getting the fillets in to glue the panels together. We still have it clamped up on these little sticks. This is how we kept it level, although we could take it off of that now. It's just at a good working height. So last night and tonight some more, we're going to go in and put a fill coat in the fiberglass. And we've got fiberglass all in the floor of the cockpit here, on top of the fillets, on top of the fiberglass tape. You may be able to see the tape kind of on the edge there, or you can see the edge of it here kind of in the middle. And we got tape up in the front on the chine and in the bottom. And just very happy with our seams, are nice and tight and smooth. This in particular at the bow is a very tricky section, but it's looking good. Very pleased with how it's all going together. So anyway, once we get the rest of this interior epoxy work done, I haven't read the book yet, but I expect the next thing to do is flip it over and fiberglass the outside. Had just a teeny bit of an issue with getting the back to come together, but with a little clamp and a little bit of epoxy, I think we've got that problem solved. So anyway, man, this is going to be a rocket ship.
Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.